The recent passage of the so-called One Big Beautiful Bill by the Trump administration marks one of the most significant shifts in U.S. immigration policy in years. Signed into law on July 4, 2025, this sweeping legislation is designed to tighten the borders, restrict access to benefits for many legal immigrants, and increase deportations, all while promising certain protections for farm workers who play an essential role in America's agricultural economy. Yet, beneath the surface of these promises lies a complex web of consequences that affect millions of people, from green card holders to undocumented farm laborers, sparking both hope and fear across immigrant communities nationwide. At the core of this bill lies a massive allocation of funds aimed at increasing border security and immigration enforcement. Tens of billions have been dedicated to expanding detention facilities, completing the border wall, and boosting the budgets for Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE. This shows the administration's clear intent to reinforce physical and operational barriers to unauthorized immigration. However, this intensification of enforcement comes with real-world consequences for industries heavily reliant on immigrant labor, particularly agriculture, which depends on migrant farm workers to sustain the food supply chain. Immigrant farm workers, many of whom lack legal status, represent a vital labor force within U.S. agriculture. Estimates indicate that approximately 42% of farm workers do not have legal authorization, a fact that has long complicated efforts to regulate immigration policy without disrupting critical industries. The bill's stricter enforcement threatens to exacerbate labor shortages already felt in rural farming communities, with some farms reportedly losing up to 70% of their workforce due to prior deportations and raids. These losses have the potential to drive up food prices, disrupt supply chains, and place further stress on farmers struggling to find replacement workers. While the bill enhances enforcement, it also attempts to offer some relief for farm workers, albeit limited and conditional. President Trump has publicly acknowledged the need to protect migrant laborers who are essential to the agricultural sector, proposing measures such as temporary work permits and a revamped H-2A visa program to allow seasonal farm workers to come to the U.S. legally. Additionally, there are proposals for a temporary pass system that would enable farmers to vouch for their workers, potentially shielding them from ICE raids. Despite these gestures, no concrete or permanent legal pathway has been established for undocumented farm workers, leaving many in a state of uncertainty about their futures. For green card holders, the bill introduces sweeping changes that affect their eligibility for federal benefits. Previously, lawfully present immigrants had access to programs like Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act marketplace subsidies, nutrition assistance programs such as SNAP, and the child tax credit under certain conditions. However, the new legislation imposes a stricter 5-year waiting period, during which many legal immigrants may be ineligible for these critical forms of support. This change could disproportionately impact low-income immigrant families who rely on affordable healthcare and nutrition assistance to make ends meet. The Congressional Budget Office has projected that by 2034, over 1 million legal immigrants could become uninsured due to these policy changes, a staggering figure that underscores the bill's wide-reaching impact. Moreover, the bill introduces new taxes and fees aimed at remittances, the money immigrants send to family members overseas. By taxing a percentage of these remittances, the administration hopes to curb the outflow of funds, but critics argue this measure could further strain immigrant families both here and abroad, alongside increased application fees for green cards, work permits, and asylum claims. These financial burdens could make legal immigration pathways more difficult and costly for many individuals and families. This legislation has sparked intense debate and division. On one side, supporters hail it as a necessary step to secure the borders, reduce illegal immigration, and preserve taxpayer resources by limiting access to benefits for non-citizens. They argue that tightening these policies incentivizes legal immigration and discourages abuse of the system. On the other side, immigrant advocates, health experts, and some agricultural leaders warn that the bill's harsh restrictions could deepen hardships for immigrant families, create barriers to healthcare, and jeopardize the food supply due to labor shortages. Farmers in particular find themselves caught between competing pressures. Many understand the administration's desire for stronger enforcement, but worry that aggressive deportations and restrictive policies will leave their fields barren and their businesses struggling. The agriculture sector's reliance on immigrant labor is so substantial that disruptions have already led to delayed planting, unharvested crops, and concerns about food security. Some agricultural stakeholders have urged Congress and the administration to implement practical solutions, such as expanding visa programs and providing clear pathways for farm workers to remain legally employed, to avoid crippling shortages. In response, the administration has taken some steps to mitigate the fallout. ICE raids at farms and food processing plants have been temporarily paused, and efforts to streamline the H-2A visa program have been accelerated, aiming to bring more seasonal workers into the country legally and quickly. Still, these measures are seen by many as temporary fixes rather than long-term answers. The lack of a comprehensive plan to address the legal status of millions of undocumented farm workers leaves the agricultural workforce vulnerable, and the uncertainty weighs heavily on families and employers alike. The social and economic implications extend beyond the fields. Immigrant communities face increased anxiety and fear, uncertain of whether they or their loved ones might be targeted for deportation. Families who have built lives in the US worry about losing access to healthcare and nutritional support, affecting children's well-being and overall public health. The potential increase in uninsured individuals could strain hospitals and clinics, especially in rural areas already facing healthcare shortages. As these policy shifts unfold, questions loom large. Will there be bipartisan efforts to soften the bill's harsher provisions and provide farm workers with a stable legal status? Can the agricultural sector adapt quickly enough to prevent a labor crisis that could ripple across the economy? How will immigrant families navigate the tightening eligibility requirements for essential programs? These issues are not just political talking points, but real challenges affecting millions of Americans. In the end, the One Big Beautiful Bill is a landmark piece of legislation with far-reaching consequences. It highlights the ongoing tension in U.S. immigration policy between enforcement and compassion, between securing borders and supporting vital economic sectors. For green card holders and farm workers, it is a moment of uncertainty and vulnerability, a time when the promise of opportunity clashes with the reality of restriction. This story is still unfolding, and its impact will be felt for years to come. As the administration implements the law's provisions, communities across the country will be watching closely. Immigrant advocates will push for protections and pathways to citizenship. Farmers will demand a reliable workforce, and policymakers will grapple with balancing security, economy, and human dignity. For now, green card holders and farm workers face an uncertain road ahead, caught in the crossfire of a bold legislative gamble that seeks to reshape America's immigration landscape. Thank you for watching. If you found this explanation helpful, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you won't miss future updates on this critical topic. What do you think lies ahead for immigrant communities and the farming industry under this new law? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Stay safe, and see you in the next video.